Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome back to the second half of today's upload. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description below. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's take a walk on the conspiracy side. Shall we? So, throughout the Dogman and cryptid research, investigation, and narration, I've talked with police officers, government agents ranging from park rangers all the way up to alphabet agents. But tonight, what I have for you all is a file from an FBI agent who was involved in the Dulce underground base and other DUMBs throughout our country. And it is very, very enlightening, but also terrifying that our government knows that these things exist and actually helped create them, but yet say they keep us safe. Here is that transcript/letter. The following is from a secret report released by FBI Special Agent codenamed Jordan, who has been involved with the intrigues taking place near Dulce, New Mexico, and Area 51, Dreamland, Nevada. Among his fellow colleagues within the FBI, Jordan was often referred to as the X-File Man. Jordan claims to be an abductee whose birth in 1962 was genetically engineered by tall grays that had apparently altered the genetic codes within the ovum of his human mother, who was also an abductee, and infused the genetic coding of the ovum with certain specific genetic characteristics, taken from another female abductee for some undetermined purposes. Although his life was being severely manipulated by the aliens, agents of the Department of the Navy apparently stepped in to counter some of the machinations which the aliens were carrying out, using abductees like Jordan as pawns in a vast game of cosmic chess. With the permission of the agent himself, the following was reproduced from Maya Adams' book, The Exiles. Incidentally, the author uses the British spelling of gray with an E, rather than the American spelling of gray with an A. Just in case the reader was wondering which is the correct spelling, they are both correct. The account I am about to give is based on my experiences and personal investigation I have conducted over the past several months. I cannot, and in a few instances I specifically prevented from, revealing where and when I acquired all of this information I will present. I will state that on 2 occasions I deliberately violated secure areas, and on 1 occasion participated in a rather unorthodox field interrogation in order to obtain data. I also deliberately involved several innocent parties who, unfortunately, may become subject to penalties, which should rightfully only be mine. I have lied, and I have done so knowingly and repeatedly in order to elicit information and in order to cause governmental entities to react to moves they only thought I was making. I freely admit that I am guilty of abusing the power of my office and my credentials. I do not apologize for this, but I may soon become subject to administrative or legal consequences of these actions. So be it. At the risk of appearing melodramatic, more dire consequences may also follow. I can only state that if resistance is within my power, I will not go quietly. I am taking the precaution of disseminating this account, both on paper and disc, to several individuals solely and exclusively as the means of forestalling the desirability of attempting to silence me entirely. It is my belief that revenge would not be the goal of those opposed to my efforts, but rather the prevention of the leakage of information. As a copy of this report is now in your hands, I urge you to make numerous additional copies and place these copies in several locations to avert efforts at recovering all of them. Let me be very clear. If my opponents are able to recover all of the copies of this report, then they will inevitably turn to the matter of muzzling me as the only remaining threat to security they face. I am firmly convinced that I was abducted by non-human sentinel beings at the age of 6, section deleted, and that my newly surfaced, thanks to Dr. Name Deleted, recollections regarding this incident are reliable and real. These beings strongly resembled the gray breeders I will describe below, but, as I remember, no workers. I can't be entirely sure of what these beings represented. However, I have incontrovertible evidence that the aliens who abducted me as a child have maintained an interest, if not an influence, in my life. This evidence has already been provided to those who could make the best use of it. The Department of the Navy is a relatively small clandestine agency within the United States government, which is staffed primarily by individuals ostensibly recruited and trained by other elements of the federal government. It is funded and supported by the NSA and is also augmented by very tightly compartmentalized elements of the armed forces. I believe that Blue Light is the original code name for the United States Army EBE-related unit, which was allegedly converted into the now famous counter-terrorist Delta Force and other governmental organizations. Approximately 1/3 of the headquarters Division 5 of the FBI is actually a front for DON, Department of the Navy, with at least several dozen headquarters special agents devoted to these matters. Despite its name, the Department of the Navy has very little to do with the actual United States Navy. Its existence is known only by the extremely limited number of individuals, and its actual mission is known by an even smaller number. The Department of the Navy's purpose is to direct extraordinary, unique activities in relation to extraterrestrial biological entities, EBEs, and alien technologies, with the primary missions of combating alien operations which are hostile to the national security of the United States, gathering and exploiting alien technologies, and the containment of premature disclosure of information regarding the presence and intentions of the EBEs. Ironically, while NASA supposedly suspects or knows that there are alien artifacts on the moon and is suppressing data on this subject, this was only mentioned to me as an aside. NASA has no official role in dealing with the EBEs. This is not to say, however, that NASA, like the rest of the overt government, is not penetrated by some Department of the Navy personnel. Furthermore, the Department of the Navy has had some interaction with NASA personnel who accidentally became aware of too much. I was also told that an overt NASA effort to detect non-human civilizations was doomed to failure, but I was not told why. The Greys are divided into quasi-sentinel asexual workers who are, on average, 4 foot tall, and dominant breeders who have large eyes and are on average almost 6 feet in height. Both types of Greys have 4 fingers on each hand. This alliance emerged from the successful recovery of several apparently crashed Grey craft and the subsequent establishment of relations with the species. This relationship is, for the time being, clandestine by the choice of both parties, and involves a very limited and gradual sharing of information and technology by the Greys. Note, this would seem to contradict the earlier statement that the Department of the Navy is interested in defending our national security from malevolent alien species. However, we must understand that initially the decision of MJ-12 to establish contact with the Greys was partly motivated by national security concerns. For instance, the desire for advanced weapons, the establishment of a treaty with the Greys in order to appease any intent on their part of taking control, all the while studying them and their weaknesses. In reality, it seems as if some of the intelligence agencies were attempting to do to the Greys what they have done to other cultures, including our own. That is, use the treaties as a weapon against the Greys to infiltrate their operational structure and find out their weaknesses and exploit their technology at the same time. According to contactees, most of the human cultures who have been taken over in the past as a result of the Trojan Horse treaties with the Greys were sincerely blinded by the Greys' platitudes of benevolence and friendship. Much more cynical and untrusting intelligence agencies of planet Earth, who were no strangers to war and betrayal, although hoping for the best, were at the same time preparing for the worst once the treaties were established. In the end, the choice of the Greys to play their hand and match wits with the intelligence agencies of planet Earth, whose cunning and expertise of manipulation are notorious, may ultimately be their downfall. Nevertheless, these agencies on Earth are playing a high-risk game. In their bid to gain galactic intelligence and technology with the Greys, they run a high risk of having many of their own agents fall under the psychological control of the Greys. In other words, while reaching one hand out in a feigned friendship toward the Greys, the other hand is busy developing technical weaponry in the hope of potentially exploiting, conquering, and destroying them, just in case they turn on us. We must admit that there are various different motives in dealing with the Greys. The elite globalists, of course, need the Greys' mind control technology to assist in the implementation of their planetary dictatorship. Others want nothing to do with the Greys, but desire only their technology. In a strange twist of irony, the military alliance and subsequent resistance to the Greys may work for the eventual good of the planet. The reason for this is the fact that in their attempt to infiltrate and subvert our planet, the Greys made some grave underestimations. One of the major mistakes they made, probably out of fear of reprisal, resulting from the growing knowledge within intelligence agency of the blatant betrayals of the treaties, was to jump the gun and attempt a planetary takeover before they were ready for it. They discovered that their methods, which have succeeded in other worlds, did not work quite as well on planet Earth. When the takeover came about, they were only able to conquer a large segment of the underground world, whereas their attempts to use their human agents on the surface to take control of the world above by precipitating a full totalitarian coup in America was strongly resisted. Because of this resistance, they could only achieve no better than a stalemate. Now it is a tooth and nail battle between freedom-loving sovereignist humans above and freedom-hating collectist reptilians below for control of the minds of the leaders of the military-industrial complex, which operates both above and below the surface of the planet. Whichever side comes out in control of the MIC will possess both worlds. The aliens are running scared because in 1989 their secret, the Enigma, came crashing through the surface and out into the open when Bob Lazar had the guts to come clean about what was happening at Area 51. Once he stood up to the beast, others joined him in his crusade. John Lear, William Cooper, Don Ecker, Paul Benowitz, Krista Tilton, Val Valerin, Phil Snyder, Thomas Costello, Jason Bishop, Noro Hawkwana, Bill Hamilton, Agent Yellowfruit, John Rhodes, Michael Lindman, Michael Corbin, Commander X, Jim McCampbell, Robert Morningsky, Colonel Stephen Wilson, Bill English, Jefferson Souza, yours truly, etc., etc. I cannot name all of the names here, as the list grows every day. Although many of these may have some heated personality and philosophical differences among themselves, they nevertheless have the same thing in common. Each of them possessed a different piece of an overall puzzle on the human-alien interaction. Once the dam broke, so to speak, what had previously been a situation that was out of control in respect to the U.S. government became a situation that became out of control for the Greys, except some rather desperate attempts by the Greys in the future to resolve the situation and take back control. As I said, they are running out of time, and they are running scared and desperate. Beings do desperate things. Will they simply concede defeat and leave this planet? Or do they consider planet Earth and its resources to be the key to a continued survival of their empire? I personally get the feeling that the inferior leaders of the reptilian collective, or hive, have already invested too much in this planet to leave it so easily. This means that a resolution of the situation will be up to the United States, and hopefully more than a little divine intervention. With this in mind, one might better understand the seemingly schizophrenic actions of the DON, or Department of Navy, CIA, NSA, MJ-12, and other agencies, which are being influenced and contested by basically three different groups with different agendas. Those intent on maintaining true national security, those intent on selling out the U.S. for personal gain, and those in the middle who are just obeying orders and essentially don't know where they stand. Several sources claim that the United States Navy structure has been infiltrated to some extent by fascist elements operating deep within the CIA and NSA, in an effort to use its organizational structure to serve their unconstitutional agendas, in most cases without the knowledge of most Navy personnel themselves. Through misrepresentation of their motives and intentions, these infiltrators have succeeded in gaining support from the Navy personnel for their clandestine activities using the false facade of patriotism or national security, when in reality, many of the joint NSA alien projects have in reality subverted the national security of the United States. Several underground and underwater facilities, at least one underwater facility, is off the Florida coast and has terrestrial access point in South Miami. I and my unseen cohorts have already provided the address to several individuals have been established to support these joint operational activities and to provide a suitable habitat for the EBEs involved. Parenthically, the Multiple Protective Shelter MPS ICBM basing scheme proposed in the early 80s was actually a cover for the construction of 4,600 EBE-related bunkers. This scheme was politically untenable and had to be abandoned, but would have allowed for a tremendous expansion of alien activity in the United States. There is presently an ongoing competition for influence, if not outright domination, over the Earth and its life forms between the Greys and other species commonly identified as reptilians or lizards. It is supposedly known that this species ominously refers to itself as Earthlings. I was shown extremely clear photographs of examples of this species. Reptilians appeared human-sized, had 3 toes on each foot, and had notably large mouths, muzzles, which with prominent teeth. This competition has resulted in the destruction of several craft both within and without the Earth's atmosphere, and has prompted the development of certain aspects of the United States strategic nuclear forces, as well as the Strategic Defense Initiative. The Department of the Navy conducts extensive surveillance and monitoring of individuals who are unknowingly part of an ongoing program of manipulation of the human gene pool by competing non-human alliances. This manipulation was initially undertaken by the reptilian species, apparently to direct certain human traits in ways favorable to this species. In addition, reptilian efforts have apparently focused on the United States and, to a lesser extent, its allies, due to the United States leading economic and military or military-industrial worldwide. Study has determined that the reptilian efforts in this area amount to long-term genetic sabotage. The reptilians have also been responsible for livestock mutilation and some human abductions for other negative purposes. Strangely, there is some historical connection between the reptilians and the development of nuclear energy, but this was only hinted by my sources. However, the gray abductions of human subjects have been aimed primarily at the creation of particularly hardy elite hybrid species, which would be initially capable of forming and leading elements of the gray society, as well as serving a similar role in human society. The hybrids would also be able to survive destructive ecological changes that the Greys believe will take place on Earth in the near future. The hybrids I saw had the appearance of human children, with unusually large heads and eyes, as well as fine, sparse hair. Earlier and unsatisfactory efforts supposedly resulted in a more fetus-like appearance on the part of these hybrids. All hybrids thus far produced are sterile and unable to reproduce. However, all hybrids have well-developed digestive systems. The implantation of bioelectronic devices in proximity to the central nervous system of abductees has been utilized by the Greys for several complementary purposes, but the most important reason is in order to have a more reliable means of mind control at a distance. Such control is necessary in order to facilitate follow-up abductions and in order to prevent male subjects from having voluntary sterilizations. The Department of the Navy has taken a very active and largely successful role in countering reptilian genetic sabotage. However, it is tasked with taking no role other than observation of the gray abductions to the extent permitted by this group. This results in moral and control problems within this organization. These moral problems have benefited me on more than one occasion, and I strongly believe that governmental conclusion in these activities is unconstitutional. The Greys, like the reptilians, routinely attempt to erase the abduction-related memories of those abducted. One of the most exotic elements of the Grey technology exploited by the Don involves the deliberate regulation of human brain activity, including telepathic communication and propulsive technologies, which include temporal and, for a lack of better term, trans-dimensional facets. Gray biotechnologies are, paradoxically, fundamentally primitive, but have some extremely advanced facets. Practically significant is the ability to manufacture synthetic, biological, mechanical entities. I wonder if the so-called men in black, if they exist, are examples of these sort of beings. The conditioning of human brain temporal lobe activity through electromagnetic and advanced medical techniques is used by the Department of the Navy in two primary ways. The most obvious is in the elimination of undesirable memories from the minds of accidental witnesses to gray abduction. In this case, somewhat less reliable electromagnetic means just normally be utilized. The second, but actually more important use for this form of advanced mind control is in the elimination of undesirable memories in the minds of Department of Navy personnel and other knowing participants in government activities relating to EBEs. This latter form of hypnosis is normally done through a more reliable medical or chemical means and is utilized for two reasons. The first reason is actually in the interests of the mental health of certain individuals unable to successfully cope with the unique psychic environment surrounding EBE activities. The second reason to utilize voluntary mind control on the government personnel is to delete information from the minds of these individuals, which could be exploited by either terrestrial and or extraterrestrial. Department of Navy field agents are therefore often referred to as zombies and their units as zombie squads. Voluntary erasings are far more reliable than those imposed upon the subject, especially if there is a surgical component. However, neither technique is absolutely reliable, and therefore, all erasings also include elements of disinformation implanted in the mind of the target or agent, which would tend to render any recall accounts contradictory or otherwise unreliable. Zombies are also programmed against allowing themselves to be hypnotically regressed or otherwise medically examined by unauthorized personnel. This is practically important, as most of these agents have implants placed in their bodies by the Greys to supposedly monitor Department of Navy compliance with mutual agreements. Morale among Department of Navy agents is practically impaired by the obvious deterioration of mental and emotional function among these individuals as a result of these psychic interventions. The Department of Defense has been a primary beneficiary of alien-derived tech, which has been disseminated in a largely covert manner. In other words, even the military engineering units and defense contractors involved have been unaware of the actual source of key breakthrough techs supplied to them. Although some alien technology has been adopted, specifically in the hypersonic blank stealth and blank reconnaissance program, and some anti-gravity drive extraterrestrial craft are now being actually duplicated. I was shown one hovering almost silently in a hangar at a subsite of the Nellis Air Force Base and can state that rumors regarding such craft were accurate. The most significant alien tech being acquired are supposedly in the field of computing. These technologies have provided the United States with a secret and therefore largely theoretical technological superiority over other nations. I will also mention that I was flown aboard a helicopter of a design I had never seen before, which was not only unbelievably quiet, but could also cloak itself from being seen by the naked eye during the hours of darkness using a system referred to as blank. There is also an ongoing program of gradual society conditioning to accept the existence of influence of EBEs in Earth's history. Accordingly, the Department of Navy currently has plans to eventually stage a first contact event similar to the depicted in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so as to prevent any immediate disclosure of the fact that first contact actually took place 50 years ago, mid-40s. This is only part of the classical psychological warfare program directed at the American people by their own government without appropriate authority. There is also an Department of Navy effort in progress to fully identify other alien entities which has had an impact on this planet. Specifically, There is an EBE species known as that of the birdman, which is believed to be somehow reptilian related. Various known among sources as the Mothman, Wind Draco, pterodactyloids. There is also an alien species which has been identified as the babies for their somewhat neonatal appearance. These might be some sort of hybrid humanoid. The interspecies rivalry currently in progress involves elements of what can only be termed espionage. In other words, both sides have utilized tactics and strategies usually associated with covert intelligence agencies. The most striking tactic employed by the reptilians is that of the false flag, which involves the portrayal of hostile reptilian actions as being those of more benign species. This particular technique has been focused on the United States government on several occasions, and in one incident that was recounted to me resulted in the killing of numerous Greys by the United States military forces. The dissemination of disinformation is also a favored technique. The utilization of mind control techniques by both sides makes this particular espionage game a difficult one to comprehend or master. And as they say, the truth is out there, but can we recognize it when we see it? So a couple of things popped off in my head. One, the mind and memory ability to erase. Two, Point Pleasant Mothman is some sort of reptilian-like alien. Then the term pterodactyloid was used. There's a photo of, I think they were either miners or whatever, back in the 1800s, where they had shot a thunderbird, and to me it resembled a pterodactyl. A lot of information in this. A lot of real good information. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be in the near future that we'll get some sort of disclosure, but I'm going to keep trying to push on a daily. And as long as you guys are listening, I'm going to keep pushing. So, all right, my friends, please be safe. Please practice kindness. May the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that we call life. Until tomorrow morning, my friends, until tomorrow morning.